Welcome to the Learn and Talk English podcast. Are you ready to improve your English speaking skills?
Yes.
Today, we are going to talk about a very important topic,
Oh, yes.
thinking in English.
Thinking in English is very important.
Yeah.
Have you ever noticed that when you are trying to speak English,
Yeah.
you often translate from your native language in your head?
Yes, it can be a real challenge.
Yeah.
It's like I'm trying to juggle too many things at once.
Exactly. It can make speaking English feel slow and unnatural.
Right.
Instead of translating in your mind.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be great to be able to think directly in English?
That would make speaking English so much
So-
easier and more fluent, right?
Yeah.
It's like switching from a bumpy dirt road to a smooth highway.
Absolutely. And the good news is that you can train your brain
Okay.
to think in English.
Okay.
It's like learning any new skill.
Yes.
It takes practice, but with the right approach,
Yeah.
you can definitely do it.
That's great to hear.
Yeah.
So where do we start? What are some simple steps we can take to start thinking in English?
One of the best ways to start is by focusing on everyday objects around you.
Yeah.
Instead of just seeing a lamp, for example.
Yeah.
Try to think lamp in English.
It sounds simple,
Yeah.
but I can see how that would start to create a connection
Yeah,
between the object and the English word.
Exactly. And you can take it a step further
Right.
by describing the object in English.
Okay.
For example, you could think,
Okay.
this is a lamp.
Okay.
It's tall and has a white shade.
Okay.
The light is warm and inviting.
So we are not just labeling the object,
No.
but actually thinking about its qualities and features in English.
Yes, precisely.
Yeah.
The more you practice this,
Yeah.
the more natural it will become to think about everyday objects in English.
It's like creating a mental picture in English, isn't it?
Yes, that's a great way to think about it.
Yeah.
You are essentially building a visual vocabulary in your mind.
So we start with objects.
Yeah.
What's another step we can take to develop this skill of thinking in English?
Another great technique is to visualize common scenarios in English.
Okay.
Imagine you're at a coffee shop.
Okay.
Think about what you would say to the barista when you order your coffee.
For example, I could think,
Yes.
can I have a latte, please?
Yes.
And then imagine the barista asking,
Yes.
would you like that hot or iced?
Exactly. It's like having a mental rehearsal in English.
Wow.
The more you practice these scenarios in your mind,
Yes.
the more comfortable you'll feel when you encounter them in real life.
It's like giving your brain a script to follow.
Yes.
And we can practice this with all kinds of everyday situations, right?
Yeah.
Ordering food,
Yes.
asking for directions,
Yes.
shopping for groceries.
Uh-huh.
The possibilities are endless.
That's right. And as you get more comfortable with visualizing these scenarios,
Yeah.
you can start to add more detail.
Okay.
Imagine the sounds, the smells, the emotions involved in the situation.
So we're not just thinking about the words.
Right.
But also trying to create a full sensory experience in English.
Precisely. The more vivid and detailed your mental picture is, the more
Yeah.
effectively you'll be training your brain to think in English.
It sounds like we're really tapping into the power of imagination here.
Absolutely. Imagination is a key ingredient in language learning.
Yes.
And the more you use your imagination to create English-speaking scenarios in your mind,
Yeah.
the more natural it will become to think and speak in English.
This is all so helpful, and I love the way you are breaking down
Thank you.
this seemingly complex skill into manageable steps.
Thank you. I believe that learning English should be enjoyable and accessible to everyone.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to share these techniques to help make that happen.
So we've talked about visualizing objects and scenarios.
Yes.
What other techniques can we use to train our brains to think in English?
Well, another effective strategy is to start incorporating English into your daily routine.
Okay.
And one of the simplest ways to do this is by talking to yourself in English.
You mean like having a conversation with myself in English?
Yes, it might feel a bit strange at first,
Okay.
but trust me, it's a fantastic way to practice thinking in English.
What are some things I could talk to myself about?
You can talk about anything.
Okay.
Describe what you're doing, what you're seeing,
Okay.
what you're feeling.
Okay.
For example, you could say, I'm making breakfast.
Oh.
I'm cooking eggs and toast.
Why?
The coffee smells delicious.
So we're basically narrating our lives in English.
Exactly. And as you do this more and more,
Yeah.
you'll find that it becomes more natural to think in English throughout the day.
It's like we're creating our own personal English-speaking world.
Yes.
I love that idea.
And another great way to practice thinking in English
Okay.
is by writing in English.
Okay.
You could start a journal,
Yeah.
like letters,
Well-
or even just make lists in English.
That's a great idea. I used to keep a journal in my native language,
Okay.
but I never thought about doing it in English.
It's a fantastic way to practice expressing your thoughts and ideas in English.
Yeah.
And you don't have to worry about being perfect.
Yeah.
Just focus on getting your thoughts down on paper in English.
So we're training our minds to think and write in English at the same time.
Yes, and you'll be surprised at how much this can help
Okay.
improve your overall fluency.
This is all so helpful. I'm already feeling more motivated to start thinking in English.
Great.
Is there anything else we should keep in mind as we embark on this journey?
Well, one important thing to remember
Okay.
is to be patient with yourself.
Okay.
Learning to think in English takes time and practice.
It's like learning to play a musical instrument, right?
Yeah.
You can't expect to become a virtuoso overnight.
Exactly. Don't get discouraged if you find yourself slipping back into your native language at times.
Yeah.
It's perfectly normal.
We're all human after all.
Yes,
And as you said earlier, mistakes are part of the learning process.
that's right.
Yeah.
Embrace those mistakes as opportunities to learn and grow, and celebrate your progress along the way.
And one more thing.
Okay.
Let's not forget to have fun with it.
Yes,
Learning English should be an enjoyable experience.
absolutely. The more you enjoy the process,
Yeah.
the more motivated you'll be to continue learning and improving.
So if you are ready to embark on this exciting journey of learning to think in English,
Yes.
we encourage you to try out these simple yet powerful techniques.
Okay.
Start with baby steps.
Yeah.
Be patient with yourself.
Yes.
And most importantly, have fun along the way.
Absolutely.
You will see how quickly you progress when you practice consistently.
Yes, and remember,
Yeah.
we're here to support you every step of the way.
That's great.
We'll continue to share helpful tips and strategies in this channel
Okay.
to help you achieve your English-speaking goals.
We're all in this together.
Yes,
So
sir.
what are you waiting for?
That's right.
Start thinking in English today and see the amazing progress you can make.
Yes, you can do it.
And don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more helpful tips and tricks to improve your English. We have so many more exciting episodes coming your way, so stay tuned and feel free to leave us a comment and tell us about your experience with thinking in English.
Yes, leave your comments.
We love hearing from our listeners.
Yes, we do. Yes, we love hearing from our listeners.
Yeah, and learning about your experiences.
Yeah.
Speaking of learning,
Uh-huh.
we've been talking a lot about training our brains to think in English.
Yes.
And I think it's important to remember that this is a gradual process.
Yes.
It's not like flipping a switch.
You're absolutely right. It's more like building a muscle.
Yeah.
The more you use it,
Yeah.
the stronger it gets.
So we need to be patient with ourselves
Yes.
and not get discouraged if we don't see results overnight.
Exactly. Consistency is key.
Yeah.
Even if you can only spare a few minutes each day
Yeah.
to practice thinking in English,
Yeah.
it will make a difference over time.
And it's important to find ways to make it fun, right?
Yeah.
We talked about visualizing scenarios,
Mm-hmm.
but are there other creative activities we can do
Yeah,
to practice thinking in English?
absolutely. One of my favorite techniques is to use music.
Oh.
Do you like to listen to music?
Oh, I love music. I listen to music every day.
Well, music can be a fantastic tool for learning English.
Okay.
Think about it. Songs are full of vocabulary, grammar, and rhythm,
Yeah.
and they're often very catchy,
Yeah.
which helps with memorization.
So how can we use music to practice thinking in English?
There are a few different ways.
Okay.
One is to simply listen to English songs
Yeah.
and try to understand the lyrics.
Okay.
You can also sing along to the songs,
Oh, okay.
even if you don't know all the words.
Okay.
Just try to imitate the sounds and the rhythm of the language.
I love that idea. Singing along to English songs is a fun and engaging way
Yeah.
to practice pronunciation and get a feel for the flow of the language.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel like studying at all.
Exactly. And another great way to use music is to choose a song you like
Okay.
and write down the lyrics.
Okay.
Then try to translate the lyrics into your native language.
Okay.
This will help you to understand the meaning of the song and learn new vocabulary.
That's a great exercise.
Yeah.
It forces you to really pay attention to the words and think about their meaning.
Yes.
And it can also be a lot of fun to discover the hidden meanings in songs.
Yes.
Another fun activity is to try writing your own songs in English.
Oh, wow.
Even if you're not a musician, You can write simple poems or rhymes
Yeah.
using English words and phrases.
That's a fantastic idea.
It allows you to be creative with the language
Yes.
and experiment with different words and sentence structures.
Exactly. The more you play with the language, the
Yeah.
more comfortable you'll become thinking and expressing yourself in English.
And we don't have to limit ourselves to music, right?
Yeah.
We can use other forms of entertainment like movies and TV shows
Yes.
to practice thinking in English.
Absolutely. Watching movies and TV shows in English can be a very effective way
Yeah.
to immerse yourself in the language.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of fun, too.
But sometimes it can be overwhelming to watch a movie in English,
Yeah.
especially if you're not used to it.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips for making it easier?
Yes, definitely. One tip is to start with movies or TV shows that you're already familiar with.
Okay.
That way you'll already know the general storyline and won't have to work as hard to understand the dialogue.
That makes sense. It's like having a safety net.
Yeah,
You can focus on the language without feeling lost in the plot.
exactly. And another tip is to use subtitles.
Okay.
At least at first.
Okay.
Subtitles can help you to follow along with the dialogue
Yeah.
and learn new vocabulary.
Okay.
As you get more comfortable, you can try watching without subtitles.
And we can always pause the movie
Yes.
or rewind if we need to hear something again.
Absolutely. Don't be afraid to pause and rewind as much as you need to.
Yeah.
It's all about learning at your own pace.
And remember, even if you don't understand every single word,
Yeah.
you're still absorbing the language and getting a feel
Yes.
for the way native speakers use it.
That's right. And over time, you'll
Yeah.
find that you understand more and more.
Yeah.
It's like a snowball effect.
Speaking of snowball effects,
Uh-huh.
let's talk about another important aspect of learning to think in English,
Yeah.
surrounding ourselves with the language.
That's a great point. Immersing yourself in the language
Yeah.
is one of the most effective ways to train your brain to think in English.
Well, what does it really mean to immerse ourselves in English?
Okay.
What are some practical ways we could do that?
Well, it's all about creating an English-speaking environment for yourself.
So it's more than just watching movies or listening to music.
Yes. It's about going beyond passive consumption
Okay.
and actively engaging with the language.
Okay.
For example, you could try reading books, magazines, or websites in English.
That's a great idea. Reading exposes you to a wider range of vocabulary and sentence structures.
Exactly. And you can also try listening to podcasts in English like this one.
Yes.
Podcasts are a fantastic way to improve your listening comprehension
Yeah.
and learn about different topics.
And you can listen to podcasts anytime, anywhere,
Yes.
while you're commuting, exercising, or even doing chores around the house. It's like having a personal English tutor in your pocket.
And if you're looking for a more interactive way to immerse yourself in English,
Yep.
you could try joining an online community or language exchange group.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Talking to native English speakers is one of the best ways to practice your speaking skills and get feedback on your pronunciation.
Exactly. And there are so many online platforms and apps
Oh, wow.
that connect language learners from around the world.
So we have so many options for immersing ourselves in English,
Yeah.
even if we don't live in an English-speaking country.
Yeah. Yes.
We can create our own English-speaking worlds right at home.
Absolutely. And the more you surround yourself with the language,
Yeah.
the more natural it will become to think in English.
It's like creating a mental muscle memory for the language.
That's a great analogy. The more you use the language,
Yeah.
the stronger that muscle memory becomes.
This is also inspiring. I'm feeling more and more confident about my ability to start thinking in English.
Right.
But I know that a lot of people struggle with this,
Uh-huh.
and it can be frustrating.
Yes. It's definitely a common challenge.
Yeah.
But I believe that anyone can learn to think in English with the right approach and mindset.
So what are some tips for overcoming those mental roadblocks
Okay.
and staying motivated on this journey?
Well, one of the most important things is to remember that making mistakes
Yes.
is a natural part of the learning process.
We've talked about this before, but it's worth repeating.
Yes.
Mistakes are not failures.
Mhm.
They're opportunities to learn and grow.
Exactly. So instead of being afraid to make mistakes,
Yeah.
embrace them as stepping stones on your path to fluency.
And it's also important to set realistic goals for yourself.
Yes.
Don't try to do too much too soon.
That's right. Start with small, achievable goals
Okay.
and gradually increase the difficulty as you progress,
Okay.
and celebrate your successes along the way.
Absolutely. Every time you achieve a goal,
Yes.
no matter how small,
Yes.
take a moment to acknowledge your progress
Yeah.
and reward yourself.
It's important to stay positive and focus on the progress you're making
Yes.
rather than dwelling on the mistakes.
And remember, learning English should be an enjoyable experience.
Absolutely.
So find ways to make it fun for yourself.
Yes.
We've talked about some fun activities like singing songs and watching movies, but there are so many other possibilities. You could try cooking English recipes,
Oh, wow.
playing English games,
Yeah.
or even joining an English conversation group.
The key is to find activities that you enjoy
Yeah.
and that fit into your lifestyle.
Yeah.
That way you'll be more likely to stick with it.
And don't be afraid to experiment.
Yes.
Try different approaches and see what works best for you.
That's right. There's no one-size-fits-all approach to learning English.
Yeah.
So be curious, be creative, and have fun with it.
These are all fantastic tips.
Uh-huh.
I'm feeling so motivated to keep practicing and improving my English speaking skills.
Great.
And I hope our listeners are feeling inspired too.
Me too. And remember, we're here to support you on your journey.
Yeah.
We'll continue to share helpful tips and resources in this channel
Okay.
to help you achieve your English-speaking goals.
We're all in this together.
Yes.
Now let's take a quick break.
Okay.
And when we come back, we'll talk about some specific techniques for dealing with those moments
Okay.
when you feel stuck and can't seem to think in English.
Okay.
Don't go away.
Welcome back to the Learn and Talk English podcast. We've been having a great conversation about thinking in English.
Yes, we've talked about lots of different techniques,
Yeah.
from visualizing objects and scenarios to immersing ourselves in the language.
And before the break, you mentioned those moments when we feel stuck and
Yeah.
can't seem to think in English.
Right.
We all experience those moments, so it's important to have some strategies for dealing with them.
Absolutely. Those moments can be frustrating.
Yeah,
But it's important to remember that they're a normal part of the learning process.
that's right.
So what are some things we can do
Okay.
when we hit those mental roadblocks?
Well, one technique that I find helpful is to simply slow down and take a deep breath.
It's like hitting the pause button on our thoughts, right?
Exactly. Sometimes we get so caught up in trying to speak quickly and fluently
Yeah.
that we forget to breathe. And that can actually make it harder to think clearly.
So taking a moment to breathe can help us to relax and refocus.
Yes, and it also gives our brains a chance to catch up.
That makes sense. It's like giving ourselves a mini meditation break.
And once you've taken a few deep breaths,
Yeah.
try to break down the thought or sentence you're trying to express into smaller chunks.
So instead of trying to say a whole complex sentence at once,
Yeah.
we can focus on one word or phrase at a time.
Yes, exactly. And if you're still struggling to find the right words, don't be afraid to use simpler vocabulary or even gestures to get your point across.
It's more important to communicate effectively than to use perfect grammar or vocabulary, right?
Absolutely. Communication is the ultimate goal.
Yeah.
And remember, most people are very understanding and willing to help
Right.
if they see that you're making an effort.
So don't be afraid to ask for help if you need it.
Exactly. And one more thing.
Okay.
Try to focus on the positive aspects of learning English.
So instead of dwelling on our mistakes or feeling frustrated when we get stuck,
Yeah.
we should try to celebrate our progress and appreciate the journey.
Yes. Remember why you started learning English in the first place. What are your goals?
Yeah.
What do you enjoy about the language?
It's like reminding ourselves of the bigger picture and reigniting that passion for learning.
Exactly. And when you focus on the positive aspects, it makes the learning process so much more enjoyable and rewarding.
This has been such a helpful conversation.
Right.
I'm feeling so much more confident about my ability to think in English,
Yeah.
even when I encounter those inevitable moments of feeling stuck.
I'm glad to hear that. And remember, we're all in this together.
Yeah.
We're here to support you every step of the way.
And we'll continue to share helpful tips and strategies in this channel to help you achieve your English speaking goals. So don't forget to subscribe and like this episode if you found it helpful.
And be sure to leave a comment below and let us know what other topics you'd like us to cover in future episodes.
We love hearing from our listeners. And until next time, keep practicing, keep learning, and keep having fun with English.